Hey FlossTube, welcome back. This is my 116th FlossTube video, and I'm excited to share with you what I have been working on. And I have lots to share with you. But first of all, I want to welcome you. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I hope that you enjoy the things that I have to share with you. And if you are returning, thank you for coming back and watching my videos. I really appreciate it. My last video was all of the pieces that I worked on last year. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you for all of your kind words. It was a good year for stitching, and I'm looking forward to another year and hope that I can accomplish as much or even more this year. We've had since the last video we had Christmas. We spent a week up in Utah and Idaho with family. Had a wonderful time. It was really good to see everybody again. We were in Salt Lake for New Year's and got to experience a huge snowfall. We had about 15 inches fall at my mother-in-law's place, which was a real treat. So we got our fill of snow for the year. My mother-in-law has a huge circular driveway, and so it's really hard to shovel. I got out her snowblower and got her snowblower working, and the snowblower broke. So I had to figure out how to replace a worn-out auger belt on the snowblower. So the next time that we have to blow snow, the snowblower is really going to work. It was giving me quite a bit of problems before it just kind of died. Luckily, it died just as I was finishing up, and so we didn't have. Well, we were in the middle of the snowstorm, so we cleared things up, but then there was another 6 inches that fell. So then we had to do it all over again the next morning. So yeah, we got our fill of winter, and then we've come back home and are enjoying an Arizona winter that has been surprisingly, well, it has been wetter than normal, so wet that if you look at the mountains around Phoenix, they're getting kind of a little bit of a green tint to them, which is really nice. That's a good sign that we've had a lot of water. The first year that we moved down here, we had a ton of rain. It just rained all January. And that year, the desert just turned green. And I went on a field trip with my son up to Globe with his school class that year. And the desert was just green. And the teacher said, "You ought to appreciate this. It doesn't happen very often." And I didn't realize how prescient those words were. I have never seen the desert as green as it was that year. And so it was really quite amazing now that I think about it. Anyway, so we've had a wet, cold, well, not wet. We've had quite a few rainstorms, and it's been cold, and it seems unseasonably cold. We've hit freezing a couple of times, and things are, yeah. It feels good to me. I like the cold better than I like the heat, so it's been kind of nice, but it has been colder than normal. Yeah, we've had a couple of days where it's just been. Well, I won't use the word bitter because people up north would make fun of me, but it has felt really cold. 50s. You get down in the 50s and down here, and it just feels really cold. Anyway, so that's kind of an update. Every family is doing well. Yeah, so before we talk about anything else, I want to announce that there is a new update to my app. If you haven't been watching my videos, I have started developing an app for iOS. It's called Cross Stitch Journal. You can find it in the App Store and look for this logo. For this icon, and that's my app. I have had several requests for features, and this update this update adds a couple of features that have been requested. I'm really happy with what I've added. First of all, last time I talked about how there was somebody had reported a bug that I wasn't quite sure. I had thank you to a couple of my viewers. They let me know about a quirk with Pattern Keeper that could possibly cause it so that your stitches in my app in Cross Stitch Journal don't match what Pattern Keeper says. And so I took a look at that and confirmed it. And the quirk is that sometimes under certain circumstances, Pattern Keeper will count stitches twice. And you can see this if you open up if you're working in Pattern Keeper and you start with a fresh day, you have made 0 stitches that day, and you frog some stitches that you have made in previous days. What you will see happen is the total number of stitches that you have completed so far is going to decrease, but the number of stitches that you have made that day will remain at 0. And realistically, it should probably go negative. Like if you frog a stitch and you haven't made any stitches that day, the number of stitches you've made that day should be -1. I can understand why you wouldn't want to do that, because like if you frogged 100 stitches, then you're starting out with a 100 stitch deficit that you have to make up, and that can be discouraging. But what that does is it makes it so Pattern Keeper is going to double count the stitches that you have to make that you have frogged. And I thought about how to make it so that it would be easy for you to keep Cross Stitch Journal in sync with Pattern Keeper. And the solution that I have finally come up with is that if you have frog stitches, rather than enter in the number of stitches that Pattern Keeper says that you have made that day, I've made it so that you can enter in the total number of stitches that have been completed for that project, and it'll calculate the number of stitches that you have made that day. So I'll show you what this looks like. If you go into, and I'm going to pull it up on my iPad so that I say things right. So just a minute. So if you go into edit a project, there will now be there's now an app at the very bottom of the screen called Stitch Counter. If you toggle Stitch Counter so that it is on, then when you add stitches for that day, you will see another toggle in the log that says calculate stitches. If you toggle that and enter the total number of stitches that you have made so far in that project, it will tell you will see another line that will tell you how many stitches you have actually made that day. And that will help you keep your stitch count to match with what Pattern Keeper is saying. So that's one thing. I don't think that you would need to always use this option. You can, just to be safe. But the only time that you would absolutely have to do it to keep things in sync with Pattern Keeper would be to do it if you have frog stitches that you have made on a previous day. Okay, so that's one feature. 2 more to go. The second feature that I have added is I have added a random project chooser. There is now a menu in the project list, and there is a menu item called Choose Project. If you select that item in the menu, you will get a dialog box showing a name of a project that has been chosen out of the list that is currently being shown. So this project chooser respects what filters you have on that list. So you can use it to decide what project you're going to start. You can use it to decide what project you're going to kit up. You can use it to decide what project you're going to stitch on. It just depends on what list you have showing when you choose a new project. If you go into settings, and here's the settings app, under Cross Stitch Journal, there is a new setting that I have added. And you'll also notice that I have rearranged the settings so that I think they make more sense now that they're split up into sections. There is a Remember Choices setting now. If you set that, then the app is going to remember what projects have been chosen. And when you choose a project, then that project that has been chosen will be marked with a gray checkmark icon. The intent for this is if you're working on your whips and you don't want to choose a project a second time until all of your projects have been chosen, then that's what this will do, is it will not choose a project until they have all been chosen. Once everything has been chosen, if you choose a new project, at that time, all of your choices will be cleared and you will get a new selection. The Reset Choices menu option will clear all of your choices. That makes it easy to just start over if you want to. In addition to that, there is now a pop-up menu. It's called a context menu. If you long press on a project, you will see a menu appear and you can manually choose projects. In addition to manually choosing projects, you can manually focus a project. I use that to mark my project that is my focus project. And a focused project, if the project is focused, it will not be chosen by the random project chooser. That will be left out because that's your focus piece, right? And if you're working like me, then that focus piece, I wouldn't want to have the chooser choose that because I know I'm going to work on it anyway. Okay, so there's that. Focus pieces are marked with a gray star icon, and you can manually choose or reset the choice for a project or focus or unfocus a project. That's about it for the project chooser. I really like this. I am using this. I'm not using the project chooser, but I am using this manually choosing projects to show myself working through my rotation. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. The final option, and this one has been requested, this feature has been requested several times, and I am really happy with this. I actually played around with adding this feature when I was first developing the app, but I had problems that I didn't like. I was having some problems with it, and so I didn't include it in the initial release. But since then, I have figured out the problems that I was having, and I'm excited to share this with you. And that is that you can now associate a picture with a project. So the way you do this is if you go into the project details, you'll see that there is a new menu tab along the top over on the left-hand side called Photo. If you click on that, you will see an icon. You will see an unassigned photo icon. If you click on that, then you will come up with your photo library, and you can select a picture from your photo library to associate with that project. You can also take a picture. You can take a picture and have it loaded directly into your app that without saving the picture to the photo library. However, there is also an option in the settings app to allow you to save the pictures that you take into the photo library. The camera is pretty basic. It doesn't have all of the features that the iOS camera app has. For example, it doesn't have white balance correction or anything like that. It's just a very basic access to the camera. I'm not making a camera app. You could, if you want all the features with the camera, you can take a picture with the camera app and then load it in through the photo library. But I added the feature just to make it convenient for you if you don't want to go back and forth between the camera app and cross-stitch journal. So because I've added the ability to see a picture, I have also added, you can now choose between seeing your project list as a list or as a photo grid. The way you do this is you select the filter option, and down at the very bottom there is an option to tell you whether or not you want to see a list or a grid. So this is my photo grid for my whips right now. I thought I could live without photos, but this, I just love this. I love being able to see a picture of all of my whips right on the screen like this. And the chosen icons and the focused icons are also here, so you can see that as well. I kind of like this because you can see exactly what you're working on, and I find this to be extremely motivating, especially if I've been talking about Automagic and about how I've had a hard time being motivated about stitching that. But when I pull up Automagic's picture, I find this extremely motivating. I want to get back to this because I love how it looks in a picture, and I want to see more of that. And it's the same with all of my whips. So I find this extremely motivating. I want to stitch on all of them. It might be a little bit of a problem because I want to stitch on all of them all at once, and I can't do that. So this reminds me kind of Brenda, Handwork Maniac. She has her board that she has all of her projects on. This kind of reminds me of that. So this is, to me, this is an electronic version of Brenda's board, and I just really, really like it. So I hope that you enjoy this as well. As always, feel free to, the app is being released today. So if you want to play with these features and you haven't received the release yet, you can go into the App Store and update your app, and you should be able to see things. I hope that you enjoy this. Of course, as always, if you see some kind of problem, please let me know through either DM me or email me. My email is in the box below, and I would love to, if you're having problems, let me know. Hopefully everything works with the release. It is working for me, and I'm sure it will. But if there's anything that you like or any suggestions that you have with the interface that you think would be a little bit better, feel free to talk to me. Okay. That's a lot of time to talk about my app. I also have a couple of questions that I have received since my last video that I want to talk about really quick. First of all, Martha Cook asked me about basically why I start down in a corner. She says that when she's been stitching forever, and she was taught and has always started in the middle, and she wanted to know about that. So my wife taught me to start in the middle also. But I mean, I've talked about my decision fatigue. I came to the conclusion that I didn't like doing that because I had to decide which way I was going to stitch. And I like moving through the design more systematically. I think I just think it makes more sense for the way I think to move through the design more systematically. So I still find the middle of my piece, and then I count down or up to the corner that I'm going to start at. I don't just randomly say I'm going to start in this corner. I count from the middle out to the corner. That is a quick check for me to make sure that that the design is going to fit on the fabric that I have. I had one time where I was going to start something, and I thought I was on 32 count fabric. It was marked as 32 count fabric, but when I started counting out to the corner, I ran out of space and realized that that was because even though it was marked as 32 count, it was really 28 count. So I always start at the corner and count out. That is my final check to make sure that I have everything oriented correctly and that everything's going to work. That's my way of making sure that I don't make a mistake that I will regret. Okay? Proverbs 31:22 asked me if I would talk a little bit about my rotation. So we're going to go back to the list of my whips to show this. Hopefully this will make sense. So this is my current list along with how I'm using the markers to indicate what I'm working on. I work on one project a week. So because when I work on a project, I want to get significant progress on that project. And so I think about a week's time is enough time to give me significant progress. And I find when I get to the end of the week, a lot of times I've had my fill of that project and I need to take a break from it. So I work on one project a week. You can see my list. You can see my focus project right now is Queen Anne's Lace. It's marked with a star. What that means is that every other week I work on Queen Anne's Lace. That's my focus project because I want to have some kind of a finish. As a general rule, my oldest whip is my focus piece. This list is sorted in the order that I started them. So you'll see Autumn Magic is actually older than Queen Anne's Lace. I've just barely added Autumn Magic in. It's so huge, I can't imagine having that for a focus piece for the 3 years it would take me to to finish that piece. So I'm not sure that I will ever make that a focus piece. So that may be the exception to my rule. So I start with my focus piece, and then I stitch on that every other week, and on the off weeks I am working down through my pieces in the order that they were started. So you can see that I have marked all of these as chosen because I have worked on them since I started this round through my rotation. So I have stitched Autumn Magic, I have stitched Anne Wilkinson, I have stitched Medieval Town Mandala, I have stitched Dragon Quaker, and the next piece that I will stitch on my off week is going to be Sunshine and Shadows. And I'm just going to work that way, Queen Anne's Lace, Sunshine and Shadows, Queen Anne's Lace, English Cottage Sampler, all the way down until I hit the bottom of my rotation. When I hit the bottom of my rotation, I give myself permission to start something. And so at that time, there will be a new project added to the bottom of the list if I decide to start something. I think, I am pretty sure that by the time I get down to the bottom of my list, Queen Anne's Lace will be finished. And Anne Wilkinson, maybe it'll be finished. So hopefully by the time I get down there, I'll have finished 2 projects. So I'll feel a little bit more comfortable about starting something. So that's the way my rotation works. Of course, that's the way I work. I am sure other people work differently, but that's the way it is. So that's all of the questions that I've had. Thank you again for your questions and your comments. If you have any questions for me, feel free to write them in the comments below, and I'll be sure to get to them. Okay. Let's get to the exciting stuff now. Let's talk about what I have been stitching on. So I have 3 projects to share with you today, and I'm really happy with what I've been able to do since my last video. At the beginning during my video last time, I said that I had done a Christmas start, and I showed you. So I showed you what it was. Now I'm going to show you how much I did, because I ended up working on this 2 or 3 weeks. I just basically wanted to finish out the year with this piece. We were traveling. It's easier to take one piece than it is to take multiple pieces. So I took this when we went up north, and so I worked on this quite a bit. So the piece I'm talking about is O Holy Night Nativity. This is a design by Stoney Creek, and I've mentioned before, but I wanted to do a more religious type Christmas. All of the Christmas that I've stitched so far has been Santa, and we need to have something religious for Christmas. So I'll show you what it looked like the last time you saw it. And like I say, I've been working on it for not the whole 3 weeks. I mean, there were several days when I couldn't stitch because it was Christmas. But I'll show you how much I got done. I'm stitching this on 32 count Plein Air Belfast Linen. It's a fabric by Zweigart. It's a color I've never heard of, but I really like it. It's a very pale blue. And in my pictures, the camera washes it out, so it doesn't look blue on the pictures that I take and post to Instagram. But this is, and I don't know if it's going to look blue or not here, but trust me, it's blue. This is what it looks like now. So I actually got quite a bit done. You can see, so the first this is a shepherd, and the shepherd is he's really close to being finished. Just basically all that's left to stitch is his head. And then we have a lamb, a sheep right here, and this is the second shepherd's foot right here. So the next time I work on this, it'll be exciting because we'll start seeing more of the second shepherd and see this finished. But yeah, so it doesn't look like a whole lot yet, but I'm happy with what I was able to do. All of this brown here, I'm glad that that's about finished. But yeah, it was really fun working on this. I'm enjoying it. Stoney Creek is a lot of work. All of their patterns have lots and lots of colors and lots of color changes. But so far, it hasn't been too bad for me because everything is kind of blocked together. It's not really, there's lots of colors, but it's not very confetti-ish. So yeah, it was really fun to stitch. So this is O Holy Night Nativity by Stoney Creek. 32 count Belfast linen, stitching 2 strands of floss over 2 fabric threads with the called for use. Okay. And then before we get to my focus piece, I already mentioned it. If you've been paying attention, you know what this is. I worked on Dragon Quaker. This is a design by Stickideen von der Wiehenburg. It's a Quaker with dragons. there are 7 dragons in this design, and it's really fun to stitch. So I'll show you what it looked like the last time you saw it. The fabric that I am using is 32 count Dirty Belfast Linen. It's another Zweigart fabric. And I am stitching with the called for DMC. I love these colors. That's part of the reason why I wanted to stitch this. So the called for DMC, 2 strands of floss over 2 fabric threads because it's 32 count. Okay, this is what it looks like. So I'm really happy with this. The last time I worked on it, let me see if I can move this over just a tad. The last time that I worked on it, this big central dragon was about half finished. So I finished the dragon. I finished that big dragon. And he looks awesome. And then I stitched the W and the R. This, I don't know if that's a leaf or a feather. I stitched another dragon. And these flowers. So I have stitched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dragons. 2 dragons left to stitch. Now this is actually going really fast. And there's a good chance this will be, it's not going to be my next finish after Queen Anne's Lace, but this one I think is likely to be finished soon. But yeah, it's really fun. I love stitching Quakers, and the dragons are a nice little twist. So that's Dragon Quaker by Stickideen Wiehenburg. Okay, and then the last piece, saved the best for last, is of course my focus piece, which is Queen Anne's Lace. This is a design by Marilyn, Leavitt, Imblum. The label is Lavender and Lace. And of course it's a woman in a yellow and blue dress. And I mean, if you've been following me, you know this has been a really significant part of my stitching life for the past, it's been about 6 months. And so I'll show you what it looked like the last time. This is turning into a bit of a slog, and I'll show you why. This is what she looks like now. So she is actually completely stitched. Well, I've got to go back in and fill in metallic and beads, but all of the cross stitching, all of the DMC cross stitching is finished on her. And all I am working on now is this background. So now it's just green confetti all the time. It's turning into a real slog. But luckily the diagonals are getting smaller. So I actually stitched, I'm about 200 or 300 stitches short of 2 diagonals when I stitched on this last week. So yeah, so the diagonals are getting shorter. It looks like she's almost finished, like there's not much left. There are actually, I think it's going to take me, I think there's 4 diagonals left to stitch. So my app says 16 days to finish. It's going to be less than that because there's all this empty space that I haven't counted as stitched. So it's going to be less than that. I just don't know how much less it's going to be. I think there's more than a week's work here. maybe 2 weeks work to finish all these diagonals. But yeah, I'm on the home stretch with her, and I'm looking forward to that. I've had a couple of people on Instagram, somebody asked me, are you going to keep working on her? And the answer to that is not right now. She's not close enough to being finished, and I need a break from her. So anyway, I'll give you a closer look, just so you can see. Since you last saw her, I finished her. There was a little bit left of her to stitch, but her hair is completely finished. This sleeve is completely finished. And yeah, I mean, she's just looking wonderful. I just got to get through the background, and then I think then things will really go fast, I think. So this is Queen Anne's Lace by Lavender and Lace. Okay. So that's all I've worked on. I just barely finished working on her this week. So now let's talk about my plans. So if you paid attention to my whip list, this shouldn't be a surprise to you. This week I'm going to be working on Sunshine and Shadows. This is a design by Graphs by Barbara and Cheryl. And I really like this piece. I like the picture. And I've really enjoyed working on this. So I'm going from one full coverage piece to another this week, but this one isn't quite so confetti heavy, so it will be a change of pace. I'm stitching that. This is being stitched on 32 count Ivory Lugana. This is where it is right now. The last time I stitched on this, I did one whole diagonal, so I mean, there's going to be another 100 stitches in this diagonal. I do not know if I'll be able to finish another diagonal this week, but we'll see how much I can do. Things are really starting to get interesting up in here. We've got this house, this fence, and we're starting to see the gate. So yeah, I really like how this is turning out, and I'm looking forward to stitching on it this week. So that is what I am going to be working on this week. I mentioned Queen Anne's Lace is kind of a slog. What I find is starting a new diagonal is really hard. I have to really push myself to start a diagonal, and then once I start it, I get into the rhythm of things, and it's not too bad. That's why you'll notice I just barely had started a diagonal. I didn't want to leave it unstarted. I am kind of toying with the idea of stitching on two pieces and then my focus piece for a little while, just because a week may not be enough of a break from green confetti. We'll see. We'll see how I feel at the end of the week. But that's kind of my plans. Just to show you a summary, here's my status graph. You can see Queen Anne's Lace, it's up above 90% complete. So that bar is getting very close to the 100% completion mark. And Dragon Quaker is also climbing. I passed the 50% mark with Dragon Quaker. So that is also really, really starting to climb. So that's my whip status. Yeah, so that's the only graph I'll show you today. Anyway, that's all I have to share with you. If you want to follow my daily progress, you can follow me on Instagram. I am at blitstitch on Instagram. And if you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe to my videos and ring the bell so that you can be notified when I post new videos. As always, I hope that you have a great week and a great month. I always love hearing from you, and we'll be glad to answer any questions you have. Just post them in the comments below. And feel free to like this video also. That is a great help. I hope that you have a great week and a great month, and we will talk to you later. Goodbye.